Hello, happy Wednesday. This is Wednesday Coffee with me, Pastor Justin, May the 20th. I preached on Sunday out of First Thessalonians 5. I think I preached verses 16 through 22. And one of the phrases that appears in First Thessalonians 5 is the phrase, that famous phrase, rejoice always, okay? And then this week, I've had a couple of conversations with people, as I probably typically do most weeks, who are struggling, who are grieving. I sat down with a woman on Tuesday, yesterday, who said, she suffered a big loss recently, and she said, I just can't stop feeling this grief. I can't stop feeling this pain, and I don't know what to do. And I know that many people are feeling that way right now. Maybe you are. I want to remind you that grief is deeply biblical, and the last thing that you need to do is to compound your grief with a guilt that suggests that you shouldn't feel that way, that you shouldn't feel sad, that your faith should make you feel happy all the time. That is not the case. Grief is deeply biblical, and I want to talk about that a little bit today. Jesus himself, in Matthew 26, says the words, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." Okay, so how do we parse that theologically? Because I do think as Christians we tend to have this sense that, hey, if we really have a deep and abiding faith, that we should feel joyful all the time. We should rejoice at the good news that we have in the gift of Christ Jesus. And so here I think is maybe the theological key. A couple things that I want to offer today around that. First of all, this theological key. Joy and happiness are not the same thing. Happiness tends to be circumstantial, right? It's usually tied to our circumstances, to what's happening to us in any given time. It rises and falls with circumstances. Good news, success, comfort, health, relationships, security, and then some of those flip side things, pain, physical pain, mental, emotional pain, frustrations, anxiety, all that kind of stuff. Happiness rises and falls with all of that. Joy is not the same thing. Biblical joy is tied, if happiness is tied to those circumstances, joy is tied to what is happening beneath us, okay, through the power of the Spirit. Biblical joy can exist alongside grief, alongside exhaustion, alongside disappointment or fear. It's not a denial of pain. It's the refusal to let pain and grief have the final word, right? It's not a command to feel cheerful in all moments. It's a deep confidence that even here, even now, maybe especially in those hard moments, that God is present, that love still matters, that there is hope bubbling up, beneath the surface. Hope is still alive. Joy is the stubborn belief. Biblical joy is the stubborn belief that we are still held by God, that God is still working even when everything is not okay, even when everything is not fine, right? Faith isn't pretending that everything is okay. Maybe it's coming to God and saying, God, I'm not okay right now, and I need your help. Please help. Okay. So what do we do? So this friend of mine that I was sitting with the other day, was also asking, like, yeah, what do I do, right? How do I deal with this overwhelming sense of grief? And I have one thing that I want to offer there today as well, kind of on a practical level. What do we do in those situations? I think we tend, maybe sometimes as people of faith, I think we may tend to expect a lot of ourselves, right? To look at this big picture and say, if I'm a person of faith, I got to work through this. I've got to get over this. And so maybe maybe I need, this 6 month plan, and here's all the things that I'm going to accomplish over the next 6 months or a year, because I know I've seen people in the past, go through these challenging times and work through that process and ultimately begin to, even as they continue to carry grief, to begin to get better and to begin to heal. And so here's what I need to do. I need to do all of that. And I want to suggest today maybe that one of the things that we might need to do is simplify our expectations of ourselves, right? If we expect, if we're laying out a 37-step process and expecting ourselves to do that and being aware of all the steps in that process, that in itself might be overwhelming and might really compound this grief and this weight that we feel. I asked my dad one time years ago, I was going through a really hard situation, and I said, Dad, what do I do? What do you do when you get to the end of your rope? And he said, son, tie a knot and hang on, right? So maybe the question isn't, what is the 6 month or year-long process that I need to work? Maybe the question is, what do I need to do today? How can I take care of myself today? How can I lean into the loving arms of God, a God who loves us today? What do I need from my community today? Right. And again, what are the things that I can do today, if nothing else, to survive, right? Ideally and hopefully to really take care of myself, to allow myself to be held today by God and by faith family. Maybe those are the questions that we need to ask. In that time that I was going through, after my dad gave me that advice, there was a person that I love and trust who said, Justin, maybe today you ought to go take a walk. All right, I can do that. I lived in Santa Monica, California at the time. The weather was great. Maybe this is harder to do in the summer in Texas, but I went out barefoot and I just took a walk around my neighborhood. And it didn't fix things. It didn't get rid of my grief, but it got me moving a little bit and got me breathing a little bit, and probably was good for my body. And ultimately, that walk helped me survive through that day. And so I did it again the next day, and the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. And after about 2 or 3 months of doing that and some other things that I was doing to kind of take care of myself and seek God's love and presence through that time, after about 2-3 months, I was taking one of those walks and I was looking around and I noticed birds and I noticed beautiful trees, and I realized that I hadn't been noticing those things, that those first several weeks, those first several walks that I took, that in fact I had been staring at my feet. And it must have been the case, and I wasn't aware cognitively of this happening, but it must have been the case that little by little over the course of several months, I began to look up again and notice the beauty and the blessing around me. Matthew 6:34. I want to close with these words. Matthew 6:34. So do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring worries of its own. Today's trouble is enough for today. And maybe today's God, who is the same as yesterday's God and tomorrow's God, but maybe the God of today is enough for you today. God bless you.